Today we will be ranking my top 10 coasters of Texas from 10 to 1. Now, I have not ridden every coaster in Texas. I have not been to SeaWorld yet, and I have not been to I've been to the boardwalk on Galveston, but I have not been to the other one next to Galveston with the bullet. But I've been to all the other ones, so I hope you guys enjoy this list. Let me know what you think as it goes on. Leave your comments. Don't forget to like the video and be sure to subscribe. Let's get started. Coming in at number 10 is Iron Shark at the Pleasure Pier in Galveston, Texas. Now, I rode this way back at the beginning of Coaster Media. Like, Coaster Media was not even really a thing yet, actually. It's before what I count as the channel anniversary, which is like May something. Crap, 2 years is coming up, isn't it? Anyway, this was in January of 2016, so Coaster Media existed, but it didn't exist at the same time. All I had recorded of this was a 16-second shaky clip of my phone, so which is why you're seeing this photo. Anyway, this coaster's drop is very fun. It is probably one of the best small drops I've been on. It was my first Beyond Vertical drop, and I love it. And you get airtime in the front and the back because it's a tiny train. It's a Gerstlauer. The scariest part of this ride is honestly either the lift hill because it's straight up, or honestly hanging over the edge of the water because just the thought of falling in and being stuck in your restraint and drowning or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's a fun ride. Some little twisty inversions in it. It's definitely, I think it's worthy of the top 10 coasters in Texas. Maybe once I ride Great White and Steel Eel and the Boardwalk Bullet, this might be kicked out of the top 10. It probably will be, but for now, it's in my top 10 in Texas. Coming in at number 9 is Batman the Ride at Six Flags over Texas. Now, this was my second Batman the Ride clone, and I've only ridden 2 right now. And this was my least favorite invert for a while, but I think it's now my third favorite. I think I like it more than Banshee, because this can run pretty smooth, but it can also run pretty rough. You almost always get at least 1 headbang or 2 headbangs per ride. However, I did ride this once 2 weeks ago, and I did not get 1 headbang per ride on a ride. So that was nice. So this ride, it's a typical Batman clone, pretty intense. I can't say I've grayed out on this one at all. I've grayed out on Goliath once, but this is a pretty good Batman the Ride clone, and sometimes doesn't have a line, but it usually does. And one more thing, I do think Batman is certainly due for a repaint. Now, what would be cool is if they painted the track like gray. Yeah, paint the track dark gray or just regular gray and have like dark blue supports. I think that would look really cool. Or just freshen up this paint with the black or dark gray and yellow. But it needs paint, like, desperately. So Six Flags, please paint it. And also Texas Giant needs paint. Mr. Freeze, it looks good faded, but it looks good as a faded coaster, but it could use some paint too. For number 8, I have Titan at Six Flags over Texas. This is not an amazing hyper, but it's not a terrible hyper. It's just a good ride. You know, Taylor hates on it too much. The helixes are awesome. The drop, okay, so what? It's not steep. It's at like a 60-degree angle, but you just build up speed. It's kind of like a Steel Beast, kind of. You know, it's fun, and the tunnel's fun. The ride's intense, and that one airtime hill is so strong. It's like very strong floater. It's almost flagector. It like ejects you up, but you're floating. It's just amazing. I love Titan. For number 7, I'm gonna go with Shockwave at Six Flags over Texas. Now, I think this is a very, very underrated ride. These loops are fantastic. These are the most intense inversions, I believe, that you can experience. You enter the loop at 5.8 Gs, and you exit each loop at 5.8 Gs. And that, I believe, is the second most amount of G-force you can experience on a roller coaster currently on this planet. Number 1 being a Tower of Terror ride in Australia. So that's pretty awesome. I just love this ride. If you sit in the back, you get some wild ejector exiting these turns, and there's also one wild ejector hill at the end of the ride. This thing is aggressive if you sit in the back, and this ride is just pure awesomeness. I think the airtime on it is stronger than New Texas Giant, and I do think this is definitely a top 3 ride at the park. Coming in at number 6 is Goliath. Now, Goliath was my first B&M inverted roller coaster, and here's a little story. I rode it after riding Pandemonium, so I was really sick already because you guys know I don't do spinning coasters. Keep in mind I was 11, so I got off Goliath. My dad's like, "What'd you think?" I'm like, "Dad, that was awesome. I loved it." He's like, "How do you feel?" I'm like, "I'm going to throw up." I didn't throw up. I almost did. Still have not thrown up from a roller coaster to this day. Not even from the 40 free spins. Almost super close to puking, but I have not puked from a roller coaster yet. So Goliath, this ride is awesome. I love it. It was my first invert. It's still currently my second favorite invert. My inverts, for those of you who don't know, is number 1 Raptor, 2 Goliath, 3 Batman, 4 Banshee. Banshee and Batman flip-flop sometimes. Anyway, this ride is awesome. It's smooth. It may have a slight bit of shakiness to it. No headbanging whatsoever. It's super smooth. One train roars and goes slightly faster, and then one train is pretty silent. Has different wheels, and it goes maybe a little slower. You don't really notice, though, unless you really pay attention. I do like the roaring train better because, you know, who doesn't love the good old B&M roar? This does have fresh paint. The footage you're seeing is old paint, but I don't really have much footage of the new paint yet. But I do love Goliath, and it is definitely a good favorite of mine, and I love it. And this thing has been through like 7 hurricanes, and this thing is still better than a lot of the Batman the Ride clones, so props to Goliath. And now we are into our top 5, and coming in at number 5 is Switchback at ZDT's. Now I went to this park for the first time about 2 weeks ago. I love this ride, and if I had one word to describe it, it's not really one word, but it's more like a long sentence. I would say it's like Voyage's turnaround, with a hill before it, a drop before it, and you go forward through it and backwards. And I love Switchback. It's a very awesome ride. I am not a huge fan of the gravity group restraints, maybe because I'm a little bit of a bigger person and they're a little sketchy, but I do like PTC trains better. However, these do fit on this ride. And I like Switchback, and I'll definitely be going back to this park for this ride and also their go-karts. Coming in at number 4, we have Superman Krypton Coaster at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, widely considered the best floorless coaster in the world, and I do think it is certainly one of them. It's on top of the wall twice, and it's in this like valley, swampy area. Did I say valley? And the swamp area. And the inversions are intense. They're different in every seat. Every seat on this ride is different in a good way, and I think I do like this more than Rear Group by quite a bit. And the corkscrews do have quite a bit of a rattle, especially in the second half. The whole ride has a little bit of a rattle, actually, but it's smooth, no headbanging. Awesome. I love this ride, and I always will. Coming in at number 3 is the new Texas Giant, which is also at Six Flags Over Texas, like many other coasters on this list. Now, this is my first RMC hybrid coaster, and it was also the first RMC hybrid roller coaster. I rode this for the first time in 2015, and I used to think it was better than Iron Rattler for some reason, and I could totally see why that argument is still valid, but I don't agree with my old self. I prefer Iron Rattler by not a whole lot, but by enough that I like it in Storm Chaser more than this. The pacing of the ride is usually pretty awesome. The mid-course sometimes activates a little bit more, but it usually barely touches the train, if even at all. And the ride usually gives airtime on every hill. Even some of the turns, you get some pops as you transition from out of a turn into a straight, like you straighten out of a turn, you get pops of airtime just because you're unbanking. Think about it in your head for a second, the physics of that. The pacing is just pretty good. That hill right there that you just saw could probably be banked out the other way if they were to, say, re-RMC this in the future. But I do think this is one of the more middle RMCs out there, and I certainly do like it a lot, and I will always love it for a long time because it does hold a special place in my heart as the first RMC I've ridden. Coming in at number 2 is Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast at Six Flags Over Texas. This is my favorite ride at Six Flags Over Texas, and it is my second favorite ride in the state of Texas. You guys know it's number 1. Anyway, this is probably my favorite launch coaster. I have a really hard time deciding between this and Top Thrill Dragster because this ride's backwards launch is amazing. It's a very short ride. It's my favorite shuttle coaster, favorite coaster by Premier. Front row is awesome. Any other row is shaky, but still awesome. And I really love Mr. Freeze, and I honestly hope that Premier starts making rides similar to these again because this is certainly what I believe to be the best coaster made by them, and the one at St. Louis. And of course, like, who didn't expect this? At number 1 is Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. This outstanding RMC is still one of the best out there because it's on top of a cliff. Duh, it's amazing. Not really. I do think it is one of the best RMC hybrids out there. It really could be the best RMC hybrid, better than Steel Vengeance if they made it longer. I really wish they did. It's really unfortunate. You hit the brakes and you're like, oh, Dang. It's really unfortunate because you're just so pumped up and then breaks. No, I do think it is an awesome RMC, and I really do love it a lot. Let me know what you guys thought of this list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What would you do different? Leave it in the leave your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Sharing is important, and subscribing is also important. I'll catch you guys next time, and let me know what kind of list you guys want to see in the future. Thanks for watching, guys.